where the
All right,
hotel?
so here I am with Ruben and Marilu, and they have just sold one of their buildings. Ruben and Marilu are buy and hold people, just like I am in the real estate investment business. But every once in a while, if something's really gone up in value, you know, it's kind of peaked in value, and you could sell it and maybe reinvest in something which has more room to appreciate and has better cash flow. Maybe that's something makes sense. Anyway, late last year, Ruben and Marilu did exactly that. So the question is, what's next? And we wanted to look at some different business models. And one of the things that you asked me about last time, and I think I gave you an answer that was a little too quick and too little bit off the cuff. And I wanted to talk about your idea of maybe investing in Mexico. You brought that up, remember?
Yes. Yes, and right, Mexico, and also there were a couple of more. If I interject, the personal residence could be also part of that idea of investing. If we sell the townhouse and get a house to create income,
Right.
right?
I remember that, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't go too quickly past the idea of doing something in the South. So I wanted to mention to you again what some of my clients are doing, you know, in Florida, in Arizona, in Mexico, in Belize, in Curacao. Remember, I went to Curacao a few months ago. Yes. And I just wanted to mention, you know, that the reason I reacted negatively, I guess you would say, to the idea of some property in the South is that what most people are doing when they're talking about investing in Mexico or investing in Arizona or Florida or wherever, what they're doing is they're buying a condo, and they're saying, well, that's my investment. And, you know, and then they say, well, I'm part of a rental pool. And, you know, I don't like condos because you can't really animate them. There's too many rules against changes. And I don't really like rental pools, first of all, because you don't have any control over it. And second of all, I mean, you're just one amongst, you know, 150 condo owners who are trying to rent their place, and maybe there's a little bit of income, but the cap rates, the rate of return on those things is pretty low. And in addition to that, generally speaking, condos don't inflate as quickly as single family homes or townhomes or other kinds of properties. And you have no control over condo fees. You have no control over special assessments. So I kind of dumped on that idea, and then I thought, you know, over the last couple of weeks that there are some other models that probably, at least I wanted to introduce you to. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to go. I think I showed you this, but I can't really remember. I better share my screen, otherwise you can't see it, right? I don't know if I ever showed you this slide deck. This is a company that actually I've invested in. I'm not the owner, I'm a small owner of it, but I've actually invested in it. And I don't know if you ever saw this, Ruben or Marilu.
No, I don't. It doesn't ring a bell.
Well, I think
that slide.
I think I presented it to the ROI group, and I know you're part of the ROI group, but maybe you didn't attend that particular session. So the company is called Flodges, Floating Lodges. And what it does is, you can sort of see what it does here. It creates, Flodges builds these over the water bungalows, if you will. And if you own a cottage or you own some waterfront property, you can anchor them right offshore. And you know, you can put them on Airbnb and have some fun with it. All right. So this is a company that I've invested in, and it's run by a couple of young entrepreneurs in their mid-30s. And I love the name they gave it. I had nothing to do with it, you know, Flodges, right? Floating lodges.
Yeah.
And in Canada and the United States, when you have a flodge, you know, anchored off the coast of your, off the shoreline of your cottage or your waterfront property, you're probably getting anywhere from $400 to $500 a night for them.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which is pretty good. But that's not what I wanted to show. I mean, I wanted to show you this, but I wanted to show you something else too. Have you ever seen over the water bungalows?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
These things rent for ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, not stupid, but very, very high. They go for $1,500 US a night. And some of them are going as high as $3,100 a night, some of the nicer ones. And probably the number one destination in the world for over the water bungalows is the Maldives or the Maldives, right? And you can see how they extend out here, right?
Yeah.
You know, some of them are absolutely stupendously beautiful.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
And here are some of the rates. I'm not going to go through it all, but you can see that high season, low season. Some of the low numbers, these are in US dollars, are $419, $395, but some of the higher rates are over 3,000, almost 3,200 US dollars. So these are amazingly popular, and you have to book like 2 years in advance because they're so popular. And here's some more numbers for you to look at. And again, from $300 a night to $2,500 a night. So pretty amazing.
Wow.
And the potential of these things is amazing. It's not just for, you know, and it'll work just as well in Canada and the United States as it will in Curacao or Belize or Mexico. But obviously in Canada, the rates, and the northern United States, the rates will be lower. Now, mind you, I'm going to stop sharing just for a second, or sharing at that scale. Mind you, for the Flodges in Canada and the United States in the wintertime, they are still used, and they're used for ice fishing. All right, so in the summertime, you know, they're used for, you know, all the fun stuff that you could do in the summer, but in the wintertime, something different. Here's a picture of Corey. This is, I think, the founder of Flodges, Corey Walker. Originally, he was a welder. And he started building barges. And I asked him a while ago, could you ever put a little cottage on a barge? Yeah, sure. And he thought about it for a while and said, he started calling them Flodges, right? And so there you go. So I wanted to show you what, you know, one of my clients is doing in Curacao. This is, here's me in Curacao a few months ago with Jamie. And Jamie and his wife, Leslie, have bought 1,200 acres of property in Curacao, and they are going to build, as phase one of their development, they're going to build on land glamping, you know, and because Curacao is so close to the border, sorry, so close to the equator, they'll just use glamping tents. They won't have to use yurts, which are good down to -40. It doesn't get to -40 in Curacao. Maybe it gets to 25 degrees Celsius on a cold day and about 35 degrees on a warm day. So on land, on this 1,200 acres they're purchasing, they're going to have, you know, a number of glamping tents, and it's going to be quite beautiful, I think. But in addition to that, they're going to build 40 over-the-water bungalows. Now, do you have a calculator there, Ruben?
We have
the phone.
All right, so okay, Marilu, you do the numbers then. So Curacao is a very, very, very popular destination with Europeans, right? Americans too, and Canadians too, but especially for the Dutch and others, because it is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So Marilu, 40 over-the-water bungalows times $1,500 a night.
1,500.
1,500, yeah, 40 of them times 1,500 times 20 days booked per month. What does that give you?
1 million.
1.2 million.
I'm going to check that. So 40 times 1,500 times 20 days. Yep, is 1. Now multiply that by 12.
Just
By 12?
Yeah.
They?
1.2 million by 12, so it's 15 million.
So think about this. one of I'm actually thinking it's about
Yeah.
14.4 million,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
that's from 40 of these. So now the ones that Jamie and Leslie are building, they're quite expensive. They're about, these over the water bungalows will be about $400,000 each. But think about this, Marilu. Let's say Ruben and Marilu and Bruce buy a house for $400,000, and we can rent it for $1,500 a night, times 20 nights, times 12. That's like having a $400,000 house that we can rent for $360,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I'm thinking of doing, because I do quite a bit of work in Belize, you know where Belize is, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And
We're neighbors.
the offshore islands of Belize are absolutely beautiful. So I'm considering buying for myself and my wife and my family, I'm considering buying a property like a cottage house on the coast, off the coast of one of the coastal islands, maybe Ambergris Key. And, you know, and then anchoring 2 or 3 or 4 Flodges offshore, right? So the nice thing about the offshore islands of Belize is they're protected by a reef. You wouldn't want to put your Flodges or your bungalows or your over the water bungalows out into the ocean where you've got 15 or 20 foot waves. That would be, that wouldn't last very long. So they have to be within a protected area. You can see here on this in this particular bay, you know, it's very well protected by, you know, you can see by the coastline. So one of the things that I was, and I'll stop sharing just for a minute, one of the things I was thinking for you guys is, if you were going to invest in Mexico, you might buy a house, you know, on a piece of water. I mean, there's lots of lakes in Mexico, you know, and there's lots of inland bodies, or for that matter, on the ocean. And you might do something like this. It doesn't have to be at the scale that Jamie is doing and Leslie is doing. It could be like I'm thinking of doing, with maybe 3 or 4 over the water bungalows or flodges, and something on land too. But the income that we'll get from it will be probably better than anything else I could think of investing in.
Okay, that's an alternative. I have a friend that, well, now he lives in Costa Rica, and he is all over. He's investing in Tulum, and well, he moved from from Coquitlam, from Vancouver to Costa Rica. He sold his house, and but he is now getting these properties in different places, and one of them is Belize. And so he's been in Belize a couple of times, looking for, you know, there are these pieces of land that they sell, and then, you know, different things. Maybe a house can be built in there. It's just a piece of raw land, right? Like in Honduras, that you can get for maybe $50,000, you know,
That's
the
right.
lot or something like that, and build something. So he's still on that project. I mean, it's something that I can also talk to him and see where, you know, where he got, I mean, at what point he got on that idea.
I'm just saying that what my clients are doing in Curacao, I'm all over that. What I'm, you know, what Dawn and I, my wife and I might do in Belize, you know, for my family would be fantastic. I mean, obviously we would enjoy it some of the time, but when we're not there, I mean, $1,500 a night sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah, and how are you planning to do that? I mean, are you gonna maybe drop by Belize and spend some time there?
Yeah, I sell real estate in Belize, believe it or not, and I sold 2 of the most fantastic islands. You know, these are 2 of the most beautiful islands anywhere in the world outside of the South Pacific. But it's a lot easier for people in Atlanta or Miami or New York or Philadelphia, or for that matter, Montreal or Toronto, to get to Belize than to go to the South Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have to tell you how long it takes to get to Australia or Fiji, you know, or Tuvalu or something like that. These are very, very, very far away. But I mean, for somebody like yourself, you know, you're much closer to the South Pacific living in North Vancouver than I So I just wanted to make sure that you look at different options. For me, I will not buy a vacant piece of land. There's plenty of places I can buy in Belize. I've looked at them where for 180 to 300,000 US dollars, I can buy a nice 4 or 5 bedroom house that is already functioning, and then I'm just going to anchor 2 or 3 or 4 Flodges off the coast. I mean, we'll roll them down, the highway, and we'll get them to Belize City, and from Belize City to the offshore islands, there's water taxis, and we can barge them over, and I'll just anchor them and start renting them. So for me, just because I'm quite a bit old, I know you said you had a big birthday there, Marilu, but I'm quite a bit older, and so I don't have the same amount of time to go through a planning process, etc. But anchoring a flodge offshore of my house in Belize, in one of the offshore islands, it's no different than anchoring a boat. You don't ask the government for permission if you have a sailboat that sleeps 8 people. You just drop anchor, right? So that's what we're going to do with Flodge. That's why Flodges is something I like, because over the water bungalows you do in Belize, and I'm sure that would be true in Mexico too. There are some processes, planning processes you have to go through, right?
And how about the connection, all the electricity, water?
Well, what I'm more worried about, as you know, Ruben and Marilu, is the planning process. Belize it's a small country with 350,000 people. They speak English there. It's their official language. It's not Spanish.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, for somebody who doesn't speak Spanish, I mean, you speak Spanish, so, you can go anywhere. But for somebody like me who doesn't, my wife speaks Spanish a little bit. She's comfortable anywhere, but for me, I would be quite comfortable in Belize. It's 350,000 people, but they do have environmental rules. They have planning rules. So to build over the water bungalows, there's going to be a process that you go through, and that takes time. And now that I'm 70, time is of the essence. So for me, Ruben, to buy an existing cottage and barge down 2, 3, or 4 of these Flodges, and just anchor them, that I can manage.
And just, if you don't mind asking, when is your timeline? I mean, on this? I mean, this year, next year? I mean,
I think it has to be in the next couple of years for me. Flodges is a relatively new company, but the 2 young men who are running it are super, and I think it'll be a big company, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But I'm an investor in the company, but I'm also going to buy a couple of Flodges from them, probably 3 or 4 of them. So I'm going to try and get that done. It won't be this year, because this year I have 6 projects I got to finish, right? I'll ask you a skill testing question, Ruben. What's a half-finished project worth?
Nothing.
Not much. It would, it's like if those guys who owe us a couple of those containers, right? I've forgotten the name of the company. Metalcore.
Metalcore. Oh yeah, we're gonna go there tomorrow.
Yeah. But if they ship their storage units to us and they don't have doors on them, what's the point, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
So I've got 6 real estate. I got to finish them, and we're making progress, but everything is taking longer and costing more. So it's probably a next year project. But when you're 70, you can't be thinking, I'll do that in the next 10 years, because that's too long. So I'm hoping maybe next year, 2023, I'll be able to do it. And I think
we should travel. I mean, we could travel to Belize.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's easy to travel to Belize and just kind of do an exploration.
Oh my God, I love the option. Belize City. The best thing about Belize City?
No.
Leaving.
Living in Belize is cheap.
No,
right?
Leaving.
Leaving
the best thing about Belize City is leaving it.
Oh, leaving it.
Yeah, okay. Leaving it, not living in it, leaving it. The reason for that is Belize City is not a nice place. Okay,
Mm.
so if you go to Belize City, you want to spend the minimum amount of time there, and you do not want to walk around the city. That is not safe. Okay, it is not safe. Belize has about 3,500 hardened criminals, so not a lot, but they do have 3,500 US trained hardened criminals, and they control huge parts of Belize City. So for people like us, that's you don't stay overnight there. You don't walk around the downtown. You get into the airport, you get to the port, you take a water taxi, you go to the offshore islands. The offshore islands are very safe, and people in Belize are extremely nice, but there are gangs in Belize City, and they're no joke. Those are tough. Those are tough people, right? They're dangerous. So the best thing about Belize City is not staying there.
It's not
Just
staying. Okay.
going out.
Okay,
From the
well, that's an option. I mean, one of the reasons we brought up this topic, and as you know, we have that money sitting in the bank, and it's not that. I mean, because when you say, well, you know, we have to be careful on what we put in, and yes, we are, but at the same time, I don't want that money to be sitting there for 1 year, even, right, or 2 years.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it might be, it looks like a short time, but I mean, 1 year is something that we need to move, right?
And you're not, you're not young either, really. I mean, you're younger than me, but you're not, you're not 35. Now, here's another thing I wanted to show you. And this is another option for you. So these are my friends in Curacao. And one of the things that they've been doing, not just in Curacao, but throughout the Caribbean, is they have been buying existing properties that are much bigger than you might think. And they put them on Airbnb. They have 400 houses in the Caribbean, 400.
Oh.
400.
400 that they own, not just on the island of Curacao, but some in Aruba and other islands. And what's very interesting, this is what they taught me, is that in the Caribbean, and probably Mexico too, in the Caribbean, probably in Belize as well, in the Caribbean, what is in demand on Airbnb or Vrbo, vacation rental by owner, are larger properties, because what the Europeans do, and some Americans do, and some Canadians too, and the Brits, is they are now tending to holiday 2 or 3 families together. And so, when we have a few Airbnbs, my wife and I, they're 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, and that's about it. But that's in Canada. In the they've got 400 properties, so they've got a lot of experience, and so now they're buying bigger and bigger properties. This is one that they bought fairly recently. You can see this is Curacao. You can see they've got air conditioning. These are the views. These are pictures I took, views out their window. This is we're now inside the house. Here's Jamie again. And you can see the size of the house. This particular house, I think, sleeps either 8 or 10 people, maybe 12, I don't remember, but quite a few. So what's in demand is bigger places. I just took shots of the various things. This is obviously one of the bedrooms. Beautiful verandas, beautiful views, lovely common areas. They got lots of bars, right? That's important. I don't remember how many kitchens there were in this house. I couldn't count them all. Lots of outdoor space. Pools and meeting areas outside.
Man, how much is a house like that in Curacao?
I'm gonna tell you. And look at the landscaping is beautiful.
Yeah.
And they bought this property too. The owner owns this lot. So this house that I was showing you is up on the hill, and you go down, and here is a concrete platform. There's a garage underneath, and the person who owned this was going to build, another beautiful house, and they ran out of money. So my clients were able to buy this not for not very much money, and they're going to build another house here. So up on the hill, that house I just showed you, it can sleep 8, 10, or 12 people. Like I said, I can't remember, maybe even more, but 8, 10, or 12 people. They're going to build another one down here that will sleep 6. So they'll have 2 adjacent properties that you could put 18 people in. So, you know, you and your children, me and my children, and another family, we could all come together. And that's very, very, very popular now. So if you had an Airbnb for 1 person or 2 persons, you know, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, maybe 4 people, you know, what they found, the demand is there for much bigger properties.
Right.
And this is just going
Oh,
through the rest of the house. This is me taking a picture of it. There's the showers. Doors are beautiful. Everything about it. You know, they've got, what do you call those, dormer windows? This is their property manager, a wonderful man. And, you know, I mean, I could just keep going and going and going. I mean, you could just see a lot. I mean, look at these outdoor spaces. You could have a hell of a party out here.
Mm-hmm.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Another bedroom. I mean, I can't count how many bedrooms there were. Laundry services, another kitchen or kitchenette. So that's enough. So that particular house that sleeps, I think, 8 or 10 people, maybe 12, as I said, was $1.4 million US. Okay.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, at least in Curacao, the quality of construction is just as good as what we would see in Canada or the United States. The builders are fantastic. You know, most of them are Dutch trained. And, you know, I don't have to tell you that the Dutch people are crazy. You know, they're good builders, they're good designers, and the craftspeople in Curacao are very good. And another thing I love about Curacao is there's plenty of elevation. So even if the you know, the ocean, it goes up by, you know, 1 meter or even 2 meters, Curacao is perfectly fine. You know, Florida is probably 1 or 2 meters above sea level.
Yeah.
If the sea level was to rise 2 meters, I can't imagine how much of Florida would be underwater, but a heck of a lot of it, I think, would be. Whereas Curacao, there's no chance. They have hundreds of meters of elevation, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that I've been doing is I have been selling property that has elevation to it, right? Like people, they're more worried about sea level rising than they are hurricanes, right? Hurricanes happen for sure, but you can build, you know, today with concrete and steel to withstand most, you know, most of the force of a hurricane. But if the ocean comes, you know, covers your house, you're done. All right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that you saw that there were alternatives if you're going to buy something in Mexico or Belize or wherever it might be. I'd ask you to at least think about something other than just buying a condo.
A condo. Okay. All right. No, that's a good idea. I just, you know, well, it takes a couple of exploration trips, I would say. I mean, if we want to go Belize and, but I have a friend that is actually doing that. So how that will tie up, because that's where the session 3 is in here, right? Where how that will tie up to, say, finding a single family home in North Vancouver or in that area that can be animated, that can be put,
Right,
you know,
right.
so, and that kind of thing.
Right. So you have to what, you know, since you have a little bit of time, and I asked you to set aside $20,000 or maybe $30,000 just to blow it on a trip. Remember we talked about that?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you've had a very good, last year was a very good year for you. God, that was a wonderful thing. You should take $20,000 or $30,000, but knowing both of you, you could combine business with pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so maybe you go to Tahiti or you go to Hawaii and blow the money. But if you really wanted to explore investing in Belize or investing in Mexico or somewhere else, then take your $20,000 or $30,000 and blow it, you know, but also double-ended, if you know what I'm getting at.
Yes. No, I got it. That was the idea of going to Puerto Vallarta in this case, right? As a combination, right? A trip that will be
Exactly.
and looking for something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're on the right track. So the answer to the question that you raised a moment ago is a little bit more complicated than yes or no. And I'll tell you why. Let's say you found a property in Belize or Mexico that you really liked. And as I said, I think it should have an existing house on it. Like my clients in Curacao, they will buy, like they bought that garage that didn't have a building on top of it, and they'll build on top of that. But what they, you know, because their company is so big now, and they're younger than you and me, because their company is so large now, they can afford to buy 1,200 acres of development land. You know, it's going to cost them 13 or 14 or 15 million US dollars. It's going to cost them at least $100 million to develop it, if not $200 or $300 million. They're much younger, and they're going to go through a process. Okay, yes. They're going to do the 40 over the water bungalows, the on-land camping, the glamping. They're going to build a water park. You know, so I mean, they're going to build an entire town, but they're in their late 30s or early 40s. They're not 70 like me. So what for you, what I would do is I would go to Puerto Vallarta, I would go to Belize, I'd go wherever you think it's go to Costa Rica, and I would look for an existing, exactly as I said, an existing house with some elevation, right? The neat thing about Curacao is even a house on the ocean has elevation. Like my friends in Curacao, they own many properties which are right on the coast, but there's 6 meters or 8 meters of elevation. So the house is here and the beach is down here, and they have stairs that go down, if you know what I mean. Yes. So you know you're descending 6 meters, 8 meters. So even if you get a meter rise or even 2 meters of ocean rise, you know, their buildings aren't going to be underwater, but they will not. Let's say this is the beach, here's the ocean. They won't put a house here because 2 meters over the next 100 years that definitely be underwater. So that's a no. Yes. So the idea of being right on the beach is something that when I was 20, that was, you know, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be fantastic? But today, on the beach could mean, you know, hurricanes, you know, the surge from a hurricane could mean ocean rise, could mean your real estate will get wiped out. So you have to be at least thinking about that too. Okay. Yeah. But say you find a place that in Belize on the offshore islands that has some elevation that you like. And you know, it's cost you $400,000 US, and you could put a Flodge offshore, or you could put an over the water bungalow there, or whatever you decide, or not, and just put it on Airbnb. You look at the ROI on that. If the ROI on that is fantastic, that'll actually get you to the house in North Vancouver faster. Do you understand why?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you know, if I could make an investment in Ottawa that gives me a 6 or 7% cap rate, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I could invest in a property in Belize that has maybe a 30% cap rate,
20-30, yeah.
I'm going to get a hell of a lot more money out of that thing. It's going to go up in value a hell of a lot faster, and then I can take some of that money out and buy myself a mansion in Ottawa if I wanted to. So you have to weigh them, but you should try and identify something in North Vancouver that you like, identify something in the south that you like, and then look at the ROI on those two and say, well, the ROI in the southern property, if we do it right, is so much higher. We're going to do that first. Or maybe the North Vancouver property makes a lot more sense.
See what? Yeah. Because that's where the point of how to use this cash, because we were thinking about, okay, well, are we going to be doing something in Champlain? Well, we all know where the situation in Champlain is now, so we are not going to have a clear picture in Champlain until maybe 2-3 months, you know, give or take. Right, which we will be discussing in the following meetings. The moment since we don't have anything on Champlain, I said, well, at the moment, this is the point where, because this is more personal at the moment, and what to do with with whatever is sitting in there on the waiting, or just kind of directed to something like that, and then start the process of the trip and going, or searching, like
Yeah.
real estate, like.
I think for you, for both of you, you should view this next decision. You're right. You don't want to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years to make a decision, but you don't have to make a decision today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
No.
yeah.
So
That's
you should
right.
take a little bit of time so that, because when I was younger, I made decisions very, very fast. Some of them were good decisions, but some of them were terrible. And so what I've trained myself to do is, even when I'm excited, I slow myself down and say, let me just sleep on this for a couple of nights, right? I used to jump, at first and look second, and now I kind of do a little bit more thinking, right? So I'm just saying that you should treat this as a challenge, and as a fun challenge, and you should be looking for, and I think it'd be great to, and I'll help you with it when you pick, see if you can, even if it's just theoretical, see if you can pick a property in the south, see if you can pick a property in North Vancouver, and we'll do the analysis together and weigh it. And it doesn't even have to be property that you're actually going to buy. It's just an exercise, if you understand.
Yes. Yeah.
And once you say, okay, well, this is probably going to work better than this, then you can really go chase it. All right. But I want to show you again. I think I may have already shown you this, but I might not have. I'm going to show you again another model. Did I ever show you this one?
Yeah, that's the one that you sold here in Ontario.
Yeah, this is in Ontario, and I'm not saying you should do this, but it's the kind of thing that, if I was a bit younger, I would have bought this property, as I mentioned to you. And I just really love these kinds of projects where you have, this is quite a big house here. It needs a lot of work, but quite a big house here. You've got the workshop here, you've got the barn here. And if you remember this slide deck, here's the property. It's about, I think, it's about 15 acres. And there's tremendous animation potential in it. And you could buy something like this in Ontario for $400,000 or $500,000. Now, Vancouver, North Vancouver, and the area around you is a little bit more pricey, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But look at all the animation potential here, right? You could, this barn can be divided up into workshops. This is already a big workshop. The house can have a beautiful basement apartment because it has a walkout condition. What else did we have here? I think we went through this before. I don't have to go through it again. But if you were willing to live in a rural part of BC, there are properties that have 10 acres, 15 acres, 20 acres. They have the old barn, they have the workshop, they have the house. And so you could end up with workshops. You could end up with an apartment. You could.
This is my idea, Bruce.
Yeah, I think I remember that. And I'm a huge believer in glamping. I mean, people just, when I go and visit a city, Marilu, when we were in Portugal, my wife and I visited Portugal. I really hate hotels. I just don't. I mean, I don't dig it. Being on the 10th floor of a hotel, and I don't know, Marilu, if I ever told you the story, but I took my wife for, I think, our 20th anniversary to Hawaii, and she booked us into a 5-star hotel where Michael Douglas, the movie star, was staying. I don't care about Michael Douglas. I couldn't care less. And so we were there just a few days, and I really hated it. And so I booked a couple of horses, and we rode about 3 days into the wilderness. And then at the end of this trail, there were some bunkies there, modest little 1-bedroom bunkies, there's maybe 6 or 8 of them, I don't remember. And you ride your horse in there, and we spent the rest of our holiday there. That was a hell of a lot more fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have similar ideas because I love North Vancouver like a city because we are close to mountains, water, and everything. I always mention to Ruben that I will move to a house that has an income. Always, always. It has to be close to a self-storage that we acquire, or I don't know, or make, like you say, animation that we have property that we can, some
On a
areas
farm, yeah.
that we can convert in workshops, everything that can
Yeah,
bring.
and I'll just show, I mean, you and I, Marilu, are on the same wavelength. This is another one of my clients. He owns, did I show you these?
No, but I love it.
Yeah.
So what he does is he owns a golf course. He owns a brew pub. He owns a restaurant. He owns a glamping site. And he also has farmland, and he has divided the farmland up into small garden areas, and you rent the little plot and you get one of these bunkies.
Yeah, I love it.
So Marilu and Ruben could
Okay.
come and grow some fruits and vegetables, nuts, whatever else. And then after you've done a little bit of gardening, instead of driving home, you sit around with me and my wife and my kids, and we have a couple of beers or a margarita, and we play a little music. And maybe I'm a little too inebriated to drive home. There's these bunkies, believe it or not, have 2 to 4 bunks in them, right? You just crash in them. They're so small, Marilu, you don't even need a building permit for them.
That's
Oh,
a
that's good. I love
cute
it.
idea. Yeah.
And you should see the numbers on this. You know, I mean, it's really incredible. So Marilu, on in Ontario, let's say you had a 100-acre farm, okay? You could rent that out to a local farmer for about $70 to $100 per acre per year.
Hmm.
Okay, so if you had 100 acres and say it's $70 an acre, the farmer would pay you $7,000 a year to rent your 100-acre farm. Okay,
Yes.
so 7,000, that's not very much money. However, if you divided it up into say a small garden, which is maybe say a quarter of an acre, which is pretty big,
Yeah.
and you put a bunkie on it, you can rent that for probably about $850 a month. All right. So you've got 4 of them per acre. So 4 times 850 is about $3,400 an acre, times
Yeah.
100 acres is $340,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you rather have? $7,000 a year or $340,000 a year?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can take your time before you answer that.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
you know, so I'm just saying that if you bought a rural property, that's what I would look for. I would look for some good agricultural land. I would look for some, you know, a barn and a workshop and a house that you can fix up. And I would do some glamping there. I would do some micro gardening there, and you can make real money doing that. And so Ruben, you could afford because North Vancouver or Vancouver, BC is so expensive, but you could afford, believe it or not, a $2 million property that's, you know, similar to this. I mean, in Ontario, you buy it for $500,000. In BC, I'm sure it's at least 2 million. But you know, the good news is that you could do something with it that, you know, so it would produce some ROI. Now, the question is, will it produce more ROI than, say, buying a property down south and putting some Flodges on it? I don't know, but that's what I want you to try and find out.
Okay, so I guess we have that homework that we're gonna search and put the different options that we have, and if by the time Champlain is ready to expand for whatever, you know, in the commercial lots or this commercial subdivision and all of that, we'll do that with debt or with investors or with loans instead of using our own money, because we already have some money into there, right?
I think you guys are on the right track, which is you wanted to have some diversification. And whether it, and maybe you're going to do both. I mean, you know, if you're successful in animating your North Vancouver property and you're successful in animating your southern property, you're going to own these. You and Marilu and your family are going to own them 100%. You're not going to have any partners.
Right. Yes. That one is no
That
part,
to
yeah.
me is the bottom line. No partner.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's correct. So okay. So you just looking at the perspective, right? Because the other project that is right there on the go is that sixplex. But the sixplex, we will until we get all the approvals from the city, we will analyze it and see if it's worth it to do it. I mean, or to sell it as a project. One time you mentioned that, and we met with the realtor in here with Tom, the one that he's been, buying. So we met with him yesterday, and we were talking about that, and he was saying about the same thing. I said, well, if you package this thing and then you offer it to someone that wants to develop it and put it there and gain some money now instead of waiting 5 years or whatever number of years is for this thing to go up and and perform and all that. So
I just helped a client of mine in Ottawa. They the owners in Montreal got cold feet on a big project, about 180 units. And they were going to let the option to buy the property go. And I said, what, are you guys crazy? You've spent $300,000 on planning costs, feasibility, coaching, all the stuff. So we were able to wholesale it. You know what that is, right?
Yeah. So that could be an option for the sixplex,
so,
right?
I'm not saying you should do that, but it is an option. And so, Marilu, we for this firm based in Montreal, we were able to get $1.5 million of cash to flip the project. Right.
So just by selling the project itself.
This group has done a lot of work. They've done all the zoning work. They've done a lot of preliminary design. They have approval now for 180 units. And when they told me they were going to let it go, I said, because it's a big investment. I said, don't do that. Let's wholesale it. Because there's, right. I can't tell you how many developers are hungry for product. And they said, do you think we can? I said, there's only 13 or 14 or 15 big developers active in Ottawa. We'll just reach out to them, and sure enough, we got 3 offers.
So I think that could be one of the routes in this sixplex. So we will continue with the city of Sarnia because it's a very slow process. And whenever the time comes, we will analyze it together and see if it's worth the effort.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't flip the project for 50 grand.
No.
Absolutely not. I mean, if somebody says, "Hey, I'll give you 50,000," tell them to take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah, no, because we're gonna ponder how much we can get if we say we build it and then we sell it. Let's say down the road we sell it in 3, 4, 5 years. How much will be the gain versus the gain now by selling the piece of land and the project? Right?
Yeah. I mean, if you could make $500,000, or $100,000 a door right now, maybe you do it.
Yeah. So we don't know. So we'll take. So that's what we were kind of thinking, that there will be some money needed this year, but now apparently not. Maybe, right? So we don't know. So we'll see.
Can I show you one other model?
Yes.
Oh, yes. We love it.
Okay. All right. We're on a roll here. So. Right, it was, I guess it was about 3 or 4 months into the pandemic. So it would have been 2020 when one of my clients, who owns a lot of motel and hotel rooms, had 0 occupancy. Like he had maybe 4 or 5% of his rooms were full. And, you don't really make money in the hotel business until you get to at least 70, if not 80% occupancy. So at 70%, you're probably breaking even, and at 80%, you're probably doing pretty well. But he was, heading towards 0% occupancy. So, that's a pretty scary situation back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So what I suggested to him was that he should pivot away from the hotel business. What do you mean? That's all I got is hotels. I said, no, let me finish. I said, what you should do is pivot away from room rental. And so we talked about it a bit, and that's what he did. Many of his hotel rooms look like this. In fact, this is one of them. it looks remarkably like a micro suite, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I love micro suites. So so to rent 1,300 hotel rooms for 365 nights a year, you have to make 474,500 reservations. You have to make 474,500 deals, right?
Yeah.
To have them full. Almost 500,000 deals you have to make a year. That's a lot of work. But if you take 1,300 hotel rooms and you convert them to long-term rental, which is what he did, and you sign 2-year leases, it means you have to do 650 deals a year. So what's easier, 650 deals a year or 500,000, right? In terms of, marketing and sales.
Yeah.
And then how much staff do you need to run an apartment building compared to running a hotel?
Not much.
Not very much. You guys know this. So so he transitioned like that, and he told me fairly recently, I'm never going back to the hotel business. Because the number of staff you need to run 1,300 hotel rooms, to clean them, to book them, all the other stuff you need to do is off the charts. But if you rent a nice micro suite like this to a nice young man or young woman or couple, and they stay for 2 years, and they clean their own property. Right?
Yes.
You don't have to do a damn thing. So he pivoted, and it's been very successful. And I wanted to show you this. This is a hotel that a client of mine bought in Florida. Did I ever show you this one?
No. 100,000 for a hotel. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened, again, it was during the pandemic, and this came across my desk. This is a motel, and I wanted motels for my clients because, if you have a 30-story hotel, you still have to go up and down elevators, and the pandemic, you can still get sick and all the rest of that. Whereas in motel, you've got your own front door, right? So I have a young client of mine who's very successful. He's a former student of mine. He's now worth 50-60 million bucks. He's done very well. He's a brilliant young man, and he was looking for a place in the South. And when this came across my desk, I'll call him Bill. That's not his real name, but I called Bill up, and I said, Bill, you're going to buy this. He said, what? I said, yeah, you're going to buy this. So we got on the phone with there was an older man. He was well into his 80s. I think his wife was a bit younger, and it was completely empty, right? Like he had not had a client in 4 or 5 months. He was losing between $12,000 and $15,000 a month. He had no mortgage on it, but he was losing a lot of money, and he's an older fellow, well into his 80s, and he couldn't afford it. So we got on the call, and myself and my young client and this older fellow and his wife, and the old guy said, look, if you can't afford the 100,000, we'll finance some of that for you. You understand, Marilu, seller take back financing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a vendor take back.
So the old vendor take back. So the old fellow said, I'll finance half of it. And I said to the old fellow, I said, that won't be necessary. I cut off my client because he's worth tens of millions of dollars. He can write the check. And I said, you need the money. My client can afford that. He'll write you the check for $100,000. And he laughed about it afterwards. But I said, no, we're not going to take advantage. I mean, we're already taking advantage of an old fellow. So what he did was he bought this property, and he converted all of the motel rooms into micro suites and long-term rentals. But some of them he kept for Airbnb. So most of them were long-term rentals, but he has a few on Airbnb, but he doesn't run it as motel, right? It's just mostly long-term rentals, and then some short-term and medium-term rentals. But then the old fella had his home here, and my client he has converted this to quite a nice residence for himself. But think about this: he's got his own residence here, which is really actually quite beautiful, and he's got all of these rooms paying for it.
All of that for 100,000?
Well, yeah, but he put quite a bit of money into it. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
it was about to retrofit these for long-term rentals. It was about $15,000 a door, right?
No.
And there was 52 rooms, so that's about $750,000. And then he spent big money on this. Spent at least a couple $1 million making himself a palace.
Mhm.
So his total cost on this was, including a really fine renovation here, was about $3 million after he finished with it. But he got it reappraised towards the end of last year for $7.7 million.
Oh, wow.
So he's done very well, and he didn't have to spend $2 million on a residence. You know, he has the money, so he did. So that's his winter residence now for himself and his family. He has a young family. They go down there, and he's got the 52 rooms paying for it all, and the appraisal came back at 7.7. So he made about $4 million on this deal well, he bought it in 2020, so a couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you could do. Like, there are a number of, I don't know about Mexico, but I do know Belize, and I know some other, certainly Florida and Arizona. You can pick up some, you don't have to pick up a hotel like this, but you can look at some bed and breakfasts that have really beautiful property. They have, 6 or 8 little apartments, and then they've got a house over here, or maybe it's all part of the same thing. But that's another option for you, another business model where you could look at some Airbnb, actual real bed and breakfasts. And some of my clients have done that. They didn't want the 52 rooms, but they have 6, 8, or 10 or 12 micro suites and the house, and that you can buy some of these for not very much money, because again, they're not super busy during the pandemic, although it seems to be getting a little better now.
Well, just to conclude on that part, I mean, that's another thing that we started pondering a few days ago, is to go and invest in the US somehow.
100%, yeah.
It's something. I mean, the first thought that came about was self-storage. I said, okay, well, why don't we go and expand self-storage in the US?
Sure.
Obviously, we have to set up the right structure and all of that, because there are more self-storage facilities in the US for sale than in here, right? In Canada. Right?
And not only that, that's a very strong idea. One of the things that clients of mine are doing is they, if you're going to buy something in the United States, is they will incorporate a U.S. company in Delaware.
Yes, that's how they. Yeah, I learned a little bit about that.
I'm sure you did. So Delaware is one of the the most friendly jurisdictions for this. And so if you have a Canadian company and you incorporate a subsidiary in Delaware, and Delaware then buys the properties in the United States, you can actually work in the United States as an employee of your own subsidiary in Delaware. So you can work for it. So you don't need a green card, right?
Oh, okay.
So I mean, you can't stay there forever, but lots of my clients have done that. They incorporate a Delaware company, they buy something, and then they go to the United States. And they might want to live there for a few years, and it's legal under immigration laws in the United States to work for a company that's a subsidiary, but it's based in the United States. And Americans, as you know, are very nationalistic, nationalistic. So if it's a Canadian company, they'll treat you like you've got leprosy. If it's an American company, Extra Storage USA, oh, awesome. They don't have to know anything more than Extra Storage USA. They don't need to know it's a subsidiary of a Canadian company. Yeah, we're based in Delaware. What do you want?
That's a good fact, because I think we're gonna, we run out of time in here, but why don't we put this subject, because I'm interested on that part, that let's put the subject of brainstorming about the US.
One more thing though, I'm going to hold you to it. If you buy a public storage, a mini storage property in the United States, and there's a ton of them for sale, make sure it has some extra land, and make sure you can put mini contractor yards there. Because my client in Arizona, Kyle Powell, with his mini contractor yards is printing money. He's just printing it, right? The number of contractors in the United States, guys who have pickup trucks, excavators, loaders, dozers, dumpers, there's just a gazillion of these people, and they're all looking for contractor yards where they can store stuff, right? So to me, that has to be part of your model, because there's a lot of competition in the United States for mini storage.
Yes, yeah, there is. So we've been kind of toying with the idea, because that's another avenue, right?
I love that. I love the idea of expanding the United States, but I want you to make sure that you add some contractor yards, okay?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I want you, I've recorded this call. I'll put it on YouTube, and we've covered a hell of a lot. And at the next session, let's sharpen the agenda and see which direction we're going in, and do some homework. You know, look at all the different stuff and see, you see what, something will jump out at you. But you remember what I've said to you guys, and Marilu, it's very important that you're passionate about the idea, that you've got some skills that apply, and it's something that you can focus on for a long time, because that's how you build value, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So
I
I want to make sure that it's something that you love doing, not just your husband.
Yeah, no, I love this homework because I love to check all the properties.
I know you do. My wife is the same, and she's fantastic at it. All right, I'm going to go now, and I'm so glad you're here safe, and you know, be well, okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
See you Saturday.
See you
I'll see
Saturday.
you Saturday. I look forward to it.